This product is primarily focused on education that we're going to talk about today, but we are interested in how it might have some implications in the enterprise space as well. So if you're not coming from EDU and maybe you were shy to raise your hand, this isn't completely irrelevant for you. But for those of you, the majority of you in the room who raised your hands, this is definitely the right room for an education update. And it does have applications for both higher ed and K-12. Before I get into our product, I just want to tell you a little bit about me. So I've been at Google for about 8 years, predominantly in our K-12 education space. I worked on Android and Chromebooks in education for a while, and just recently moved to the higher ed space in G Suite. Before that, I was a K-12 educator, so I worked in middle school teaching math and special education. So I've been in the education space for quite a while and really excited about the developments that Google has done in the past decade or so in the education space. One of our missions in education is really to bring more of a collaborative experience to teaching and learning. We hope that long are the days where the C word in your classroom is no longer cheating, but collaboration. I see a little bit of head nods there. We often hear in classrooms, you're supposed to sit still for a few hours, take a test, not reference any notes, not even get up to go to the bathroom. If I went to my boss and said, I did this project all by myself in 3 hours, I didn't get up once, I didn't reference, I didn't get feedback from a colleague, I didn't check my sources, I didn't do anything, I did the best I could in that short time span. I'm not sure that I would have gotten a positive reaction from my boss. But if students in a classroom said, hey, you know what? We learned our skill set. We worked together. We took a pause and reflected on our work a day later. We got proper sleep and nutrition and all the right things. You might not get collaboration as the C word as a response. But Google feels really strongly about the importance of collaboration in the classroom. And that's why all of our tools really have that at the core of its functionality. And we believe strongly that technology should facilitate this collaboration instead of inhibit it. We know that more and more, though, as technology becomes more prominent in the education space, it can get complicated, and the tools don't necessarily play nice together. So that's why we're trying to be more committed to integration. While our first-party tools are really great, we think so at least, they don't always play nice with the tools that you might already use that aren't necessarily by Google. So one of the products that we're excited to talk about today really commits to this integration point. And one of our ways of showcasing that commitment is by joining a group called IMS Global. Just a quick show of hands, how many of you are familiar with IMS Global in the room? Okay, good number of you. So IMS Global is a board that sort of sets out the standards for interoperability, really in the mission of trying to connect these third-party tools so that you don't have the headache of trying to manage all these separate systems and having a way for them to work together. CourseKit is the tool that really showcases this standard and this commitment to integration. So how many of you heard about the CourseKit announcement last week? Great, so a few of you. I'm glad that not all of you have heard about it, so this is news for some of you. So last week we just announced CourseKit, which is our first product specifically designed for higher education, but it actually is also relevant for all levels of education. And what CourseKit is a set of tools that really embrace integration standards. We're trying to bring the power of G Suite to whatever learning management system that you already use. So this is for a lot of institutions that might not be using something like Google Classroom today and might be using something else like Canvas or Blackboard. So we're really excited about this integration. We heard a lot of pain points in our studies while developing this product around people having to do things like turn that beautiful collaborative doc into something like a PDF, or inserting a link, I see some smiles, or inserting a link inside the assignment and getting taken out to a separate place. We're hoping that that's no longer a pain point for you with this new tool. And we are using LTI, which is the standard for interoperability, to build this tool. So CourseKit allows you to create, collect, and give feedback on assignments. It also allows you to embed Google files into your LMS experience. So I'll go through a few of the features with you today. Two of the tools that we're launching are the Embed tool and the Assignment tool with CourseKit. You'll see that there are two tools, but by the title of Kit, I hope that gives you a hint that we're also hoping to add more tools to this toolkit over time. CourseKit Assignment tool is the tool that I will spend most of today talking about, and that's the one that we're really excited for instructors to use. We're also excited about the Embed tool, which I won't spend as much time on today, but I'll explain briefly now. So the embed tool is really a way for you to have something like a Google Doc iframed in your LMS. So if you want to have your course syllabus as a Google Doc, for example, and you don't want to have to manage the permissions to ensure only people in your course registered for your course can see that syllabus, we do that for you automatically in the back end using Drive permissions. So if you want to insert that doc into, say, Canvas or Blackboard, whatever LMS you're using, it'll show up in that experience. I see some people excited about that. That's good. It can also be in other Drive files, so we support all the files that Drive can store today. We've actually built functionality for the entire workflow here. So not only have we built the tools that will be instructor-facing, we've also built the tools for LMS admin to install and configure the tools, to actually be able to log in and associate your account with the tools, to set up your assignment so that it's configured with our tools, and then finally to turn in assignments, grade them, and return them to students when they're done. These are the 3 core benefits that we want to highlight with CourseKit. So the first is giving students richer feedback. The second is streamlining G Suite workflows within the system that you're already using. So really trying to meet you where you are. And the third is being able to harness the power of those collaborative Google Docs and Drive files without needing to convert them into other file types just to accommodate the system that you're using. So I'll go through each of these and show you a bit of a demo of the product as well. So the first, I'm really quite excited about this. This is one of our hero features. We actually, in a minute, are going to bring up some of our panel who were in our pilot program testing these features last semester. And this was one of our hero features that got a lot of feedback. We are excited about this because when we did studies, I sort of assumed by saving faculty or instructors time, maybe they'll just spend less time grading. But what we pleasantly found was that they actually used the same amount of time to grade, but they spent a larger percentage of that time giving quality feedback. So they saved time on redundant feedback, things like, please use MLA formatting here. Here's how to use a semicolon for the 50 millionth time, etc. Yeah. Any English teachers in the audience or instructors? No, okay. So that joke always gets a good laugh because I think I've seen that comment left a million times. But we're really excited because by saving you time, minutes, seconds every day, that really adds up to allow you to focus on what actually matters. We're also really excited about streamlining the G Suite workflows within your LMS. So again, this is trying to eliminate the need for you having to convert the file to a PDF or to use some workaround in order to just use the Drive files that you prefer to grade. And then harnessing the power of Google Docs and Sheets and Slides. So one of the things that make Google Docs and our Drive files so powerful is that they're constantly editable. You can collaborate in real time. Instructors love that, but it's not always ideal when you're trying to grade that assignment. So you don't want a student to be able to change what they wrote in their essay, for example, right in the middle of grading it. So one of the things that we do, which I'll explain a little bit in the demo, is actually manage the permissions and the file sharing in real time for you in the background. So that when a student actually submits a Drive file, we temporarily make the instructor the owner. And so as the instructor is adding comments and feedback, the student is not getting notified and they can no longer edit the file temporarily. We also create a backup copy, don't worry, for the students, in case the instructor eats the student's homework or does something totally terrible that they own and is stored in their Drive file. And when the instructor is ready to return that assignment, we give them back ownership to their file and we create a backup copy for the instructor as well. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the functionality of CourseKit with this brief video. I'll do a breakdown of the features, and then we'll bring up our panel. So that video goes through all of the really cool features pretty quickly. So I'll break it down one by one just to highlight some of what we've built in what we call V1 or version 1 of CourseKit. Just a reminder that this is in beta, so if you decide to sign up for it, we're really eager to hear your feedback on how we can improve and iterate on this before we make it a final release product. But I think we're pretty proud of what we've done just in this beta version as well, and I hope you all are looking forward to testing it out. So one of the first things that you saw in the video was that instructors can actually create and share assignments using their LMS, but with Drive files. So that's really the first element of CourseKit. You can actually configure your course or your assignments with Drive sort of built in. So you can actually accommodate students turning in their files from Drive. You can also embed Drive files. So this is the use case I was mentioning earlier where, say you want to have something like a course syllabus or a sign-up form embedded in the iframe of your LMS screen so that students can view it if they're in the course. And then students, of course, can then turn in their assignments through the LMS, but from their Drive. We actually accommodate them turning in their assignments from wherever they've stored it, and they can actually turn it in seamlessly, and it'll be converted to a Drive file either way. We do accommodate any file that Drive stores today. So not just the editor files, but also Microsoft files, videos, JPEGs, PDFs, etc. One of the hero features that seems like a small thing, but has actually gotten one of the most positive pieces of feedback is 2 of our switchers. So this really addresses the pain point that we heard in our 8 months plus of studies with instructors and teaching assistants. Things like, I don't want to have 50 tabs open when I'm grading one assignment and I have to toggle between different students. Never mind if that assignment requires 3 files more for that one thing. So say you had an assignment that needed a doc, slides, and a PDF, and you had 90 students. That's a lot of tabs that you have open. That's like 270 plus tabs potentially. So we accommodate with 2 things to make your life easier here. One is the student switcher, which you can see here. So you can toggle between students. And then on the right, it glances pretty quickly, but you can toggle between the files as well there on the right and stay all within the same tab experience. This is the hero feature I was mentioning a little bit earlier. So our feedback bank really came in response to that redundant, repetitive feedback that faculty and instructors were repeating over and over again, sucking up all that time for really the time that they could have been spending leaving more quality feedback and feedback that actually mattered for the assignment. So in V1, our way of doing this is kind of twofold. You can save a comment either in real time as you're typing a comment for the first time. You can store it in your bank. Or we've heard from many instructors that they actually already have maybe a keep note or a doc elsewhere with a line of a bunch of comments that they copy paste on their own. You can actually bulk dump those into our comment bank, and each hard enter is a unique comment. So we automatically create a comment bank for you once you paste those in. And then there's 2 ways that you can actually trigger a comment. So the way that you can see in this here is via a hashtag. We're excited. Okay. We're excited that you can actually trigger this with the hashtag in our V1 beta, but we're looking forward to having even easier ways to trigger this longer term. If you're used to using Google Docs and say plus mentioning someone into comment on a doc or autocomplete and auto reply that just launched in Gmail, we're trying to accommodate more functionality like that longer term as well. And then the other way that you can actually trigger a comment, which I don't have here on the screen, is that right-hand panel where the files are shown can swivel and show you your entire comment bank as well. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. I think I'm loud even without the mic, so hopefully you can hear me. And then the last thing is that we actually notify the students. So going back to that Drive permission sharing exchange, during all of this grading, as the instructor is leaving those comments and using the comment bank, we don't notify the student like you do with a normal Google Doc, because what if the instructor changes their mind and wants to change that comment, or they want to deduct different points? So we only notify the student once the assignment is fully graded, and the instructor can return either individually or in bulk, which is most commonly used. And a couple of things happen when that assignment is returned. The first thing is that students get notified, and they'll be taken back to their LMS to view their graded assignment. They can start to interact with the professor's feedback, so they can respond to comments, both inline and our overall feedback, which is across all the files for the assignment. And then the last thing we do on the back end, which is sort of private to most most users don't notice this right away, but we know is a huge convenience, is because we return ownership of the file, rightfully so to the student whose work it is, we on the back end create an automatic copy stored in the instructor's drive. So it's organized by course, assignment, student. And the instructor owns a copy of the file preserved in the state that it was in once the file was returned. So that if you need it in case the student contests their grade, or if you need it as evidence for plagiarism detection, the instructor always has a copy of the file, regardless if the student revokes access or edits the file or deletes the file later. So they'll have it with all the comments and the grade preserved. If you're interested in testing this out, we are taking signups right now, and we are whitelisting people in the coming weeks for our beta. We're really excited because we've already gotten a lot of interest. I mentioned that our intention for this was for higher education, but this is relevant for any level of education as long as you're using G Suite accounts and an LMS that accommodates LTI, which is the standard for interoperability that we're building this on. And with that, I'm actually going to welcome up our panelists. These are 4 participants from our pilot that we did this past semester. We like to think of our users as an extension of our product team. We could not have built this without them. So we've gotten countless hours of feedback. I'd love to welcome you all upstage. Great, and I'll pass the mic around. But just to get started, if you all could introduce yourselves, so just tell us your name, your role at your institution, and just a brief summary of your G Suite adoption, what G Suite adoption looks like at your institution.
Thank you. I'm Paul Turner from the University of Notre Dame. My current title is Director of Learning Platforms, which includes all of our enterprise products that serve teaching and learning, so the LMS, lecture capture, polling in the classroom, and a whole host of other things, including R&D on new products. Notre Dame adopted Gmail as part of the G Suite originally for students in 2008, and that was an amazingly quick and seamless transition for students. Not surprisingly, it took us another 5 or 6 years to bring faculty and staff along. So in 2014, we became an all Google campus for terms of Gmail, Docs, Calendar, all of slides, et cetera, for all of our Google products.
I'm Matt Gunkel. I'm Director of Teaching and Learning Technologies at Indiana University. I oversee a lot of our cloud technologies, our learning management system, GCP, G Suite. We've also been a G Suite school since 2008, and we've had Gmail available to students for a very long time. We also just completed a sort of lengthy upgrade of all of our students into sort of the latest version of the platform, making sort of the latest tools available to them, et cetera, and really pushing them further into the entire G Suite product offering and set.
I'm Ben Hummerding, and I work at St. Norbert College, which is a small liberal arts college in Green Bay area of Wisconsin. We have been G Suite since about 2012. And my job title, it says instructional technologist on the slide, but it's kind of changed to technology innovationist, and my job is to help our faculty, staff, and students better become more effective at using the tools we already have, and then also to explore what's next in what we should be doing at our university or our college. And Google has really fit very well into both of those areas for us, and it has been a very amazing tool.
Hi, I'm Holly Zakos. I'm from Lehigh University. I'm a senior instructional technologist. What that fancy title means is I help faculty, staff, and students integrate technology into learning. We adopted G Suite in 2007. Initially, that was a big concern for our institution and a big worry because of security issues. We had always controlled our own email server. But it has been a huge win for us in terms of security, a huge reduction in spam. We have so much more file space, and the collaborative uses of G Suite have been phenomenal for our institution.
Great. So I'm going to, I don't know if this mic works. Let me borrow yours. I'm going to combine this into a two-part question so that we can save time for questions from the audience. But you touched on it a little bit, Holly, and I'd love to expand on the real or perceived challenges that you faced at your institution when you decided to go Google. And then maybe on the positive side, since I want to end with a ray of sunshine, what's maybe something positive that has changed that you don't think would have happened if you hadn't gone to G Suite?
So for Notre Dame, I would say the challenge has been just bringing the faculty along to G Suite. Even though we're 4 years in, the real challenge has been for our faculty is getting their minds around using Calendar effectively. One of the things that, in the academy you discover is there are department people who manage 40, 50, 100 calendars for lots of different purposes, so Calendar's been one of the challenges. I would say on the positive side, I recently worked with a philosophy professor teaching a 100% online course, and one of the things that I marveled at was just to watch how fluid that he used the G Suite products like Docs and Slides. He could start his work on his MacBook Air. He had an iPad, and we had a new Microsoft Surface Studio, and just not have to think about USB or swapping files or thinking about where are my files, are they on this machine or that machine. It was just, sort of a beautiful experience to watch him just seamlessly move from literally like MacBook to iOS, to his iPad, to the Surface Studio when he was delivering live. So I would say that's really been the positive, is how seamless it makes, faculty work for teaching.
At Indiana University, we've really struggled with student sort of awareness around what tools were available to them, why they should take advantage of our G Suite offering over the consumer offering, and really working to educate staff, faculty, and students in really trying to understand sort of the fundamentals of what the tools offer, why being part of the enterprise and IU domained G Suite set of tools was really important and a real significant value add. I think one of our largest wins actually is today's session, right? So it's things like Course Kit. So as we continue to look at active learning and deeper ways to collaborate within the classroom and trying to create and provide a more seamless experience out of the learning management system, especially when we're combining all of the different kinds of tools that are available to our instructors and really working to support faculty freedom in developing their academic materials. We really want to provide them the best-in-class services to do that, and really working with Google closely on tools like Course Kit and some of the exciting new features that they have coming out has really been fantastic.
At St. Norbert College, I think it's similar to anywhere when you're integrating something new. If you give people a choice between two products that do the same thing, they're going to choose the one they know how to use and carry. Like there's no overhead in using the one they already know how to use. So the biggest challenge has been showing people what G Suite can do that they couldn't do in Microsoft. And once we were able to do that, we made some really significant inroads with faculty, staff, and students. So along those lines, collaborations has been one of the big wins for us. With tools like Course Kit, faculty, staff, students can collaborate in ways they could never have done before. Saves a lot of time. And then also capability. One of the other new tools from Google that has rolled out lately is AppMaker, and we've been able to really do some amazing things with workflows with AppMaker on our campus that have saved tons and tons of time. So definitely collaboration and capability.
I think one of our challenges also, to echo what my fellow panelists have said, have been adoption. That took a while to get people to switch over. I think one of the biggest wins, though, is also collaboration. An example of that would be our journalism professor, who uses the collaborative tools in teaching writing in a wonderful, novel, creative ways in terms of creating a team drive for the newspaper and allowing his students to join Google Groups and provide richer feedback and context for each other together. And that's also why I'm super excited about Course Kit, because it basically takes this all to the next level.
I'm going to go borrowing your mic again. Oh, there we go. That's a great segue. So I'd love to go specifically into Course Kit. Obviously, you all have been partners with us, helping us build this tool for the past half a year or so. I'd like to rewind back to that first day when I called you up and said, hey, I'd love to show you a confidential demo of something. What was your initial reaction to CourseKit, and what are you sort of most excited about with this offering?
So our initial reaction at Notre Dame was, this is great. We and my team, we do a lot of LTI integrations. In fact, what I would say is, our lesson learned is probably much like yours, is more and more of the activity of online for faculty and students takes place not in the core LMS, but in ancillary third-party products that tie tightly into our LMS. And so we looked at Google Classroom, and we use it in some small use cases, but really we're committed to, an enterprise LMS, in our case, open source Sakai. So when we heard LTI, we were ecstatic. We were like, yes, we understand that, we can make this work, bring it on. So we were all in.
I really like that you said, we understand that. That's one of the things we were trying to do, is to show our commitment to higher ed, was to try to prove that we understand the tools that you use.
So I think, thanks to Google for listening.
You don't have to thank me.
So LTI, I don't know if anybody else has that experience, but we spend a lot of time and energy making sure that we have LTI. And then, for people that follow the IMS Global debate, LTI Advantage, Caliper, we don't have time in this session to talk about analytics, but, having those things tightly integrated bring us all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
I think for IU, it was really about sort of finding where we were seeing an opportunity to deepen the integration of our tool set. And so as a longtime user of sort of the existing integration of Canvas and Google, we got really excited because this one was really deep. It was a really deep integration. It really provided that sort of seamless user experience that we really want out of our tools, and that we really demand out of our own tools when we develop in-house, et cetera. And so as we were really looking at ways in which faculty were wanting to build material and content, the kinds of experiences they were wanting to develop, we'd already been looking at sort of custom ways to do some of these kinds of workflows. We work with other partners like Box in doing similar things. And so this really allowed our instructors to come through and really build some robust use cases around this. And we're really excited with some of the instructional design work that we have going for fall. We have a psychology course actually that's in the process of really building out around CourseKit. They do a lot of formative inline feedback, and this really allows them to provide sort of the deep level and quick responses to the kind of rich material that this instructor wants to use. And so that's really been a key part of this.
For us, we were just like over the moon, as Paul said, that it's just, we have faculty members who are using Classroom, and there's a good percentage of them at St. Norbert, but this now gives access to all of our users that are using Moodle to be able to have a lot of the same capabilities. And in fact, what was kind of neat was those users had increased capability over Classroom users because they didn't have this cool feedback bank. And now, the other part that's awesome is there's consistency between those two products. And so people who want to use Classroom are going to be using the same tools as the people who are using Moodle, and that's going to be amazing. So the simplicity of it, something that people were familiar with, was big.
You bring up a really good point. We've also heard a lot of feedback from Classroom users on desire for a lot of this similar feedback functionality, so something we're looking into as well.
I would say what we're really excited about, or what I was excited about, is ease of use, and the fact that faculty members don't have to be concerned about file formats anymore. There's no bulky having to download a file, open it with a special application, copy and paste your comments, and then add it to your LMS. It's just all in one place with a tool that you already use, that people already know how to use, and it's seamless. So there's no techie knowledge or back-end information that our faculty needs to know, and then they can just focus on teaching and providing richer context and feedback.
Great. So you all talked about some of the rays of sunshine. In full candid honesty here, what do you think might be some pushback or anticipated things that might be gaps in the initial beta offering of CourseKit? You can go in any order.
Would that be feature requests?
Sure. However you interpret that, what do you think might be some anticipated challenges with rolling out CourseKit?
Well, I would say that for us, initially, the permissions and making sure that you were in the right Google account. A lot of students have personal Google accounts, so they needed to make sure that they were in our institution's Google account. So initially, that was a little tricky, but once we learned that we needed to be careful with this, it was pretty easy to update our directions and email students and make sure that they understood that. What I would like to see added to CourseKit is a plagiarism tool. A lot of our faculty use a product called Turnitin, which has a huge database of other works and essays that have been added to it. And it's a feature that our faculty like to use in order to provide skills in annotating.
We hear that a lot. That was one of our top feature requests in the pilot around plagiarism. Great.
For us, it's going to go back to the same thing of what does this tool provide me that Moodle doesn't already provide. So just a little bit of education. And we spent some time last week kind of figuring out how do we build out a really good knowledge base for faculty members so that they can go very quickly to find out how does this tool work and what are the benefits beyond just coming to talk to us. And working on some video things that they can do things on their own time. So it's an educational thing. Why would I want to use this over something else?
I think I really see an opportunity to sort of build on CourseKit and build on some of these concepts, especially if you sort of look at opportunities around ePortfolio. So one of the things that maybe I'd like to see, Marta, would be the ability to like grade a site. And so, you know, if you take some of those ideas and sort of start to build around CourseKit and the ways in which you might sort of further collaborate or further now that Drive content types are now sort of aware within the LMS, you can really do some exciting things around that, I believe.
Great.
So this is going to be, you know, not a criticism of the Google CourseKit, but this is true of, I think, of all of our LTI products in general. We're going to be most interested in what type of analytics, you know, the use of these tools generate. One of my challenges, I have a very active learning analytics development group, and we're having that conversation, you know, with every vendor, is that, you know, you have data in your system, we want it, but we want it in a specific type of format. So that's going to be one of our challenges. I think our other challenge has been talked about before is just making sure that faculty know how to use the features. I mean, that's true of every new tool you roll out. You know, so we're going to be doing lunch and learns, consultations, documentation, you know, everything we can think of to get the word out to faculty so they can use this tool effectively.
Great. You bring up a good point, Paul. So I mentioned briefly in the beginning of the presentation that we joined IMS Global as contributing members. LTI is one of the standards that we've built towards, but we've definitely gotten, I won't say bombarded, but we've gotten a lot of comments and requests around other standards, things like CASE and Caliper and others. So while we don't have anything today to talk about there, it is something that we're investigating because we have gotten some common feedback and requests there. So I'm just going to ask one final question before I open it up to the audience, so get your questions ready. But this is in the same line, but you're not limited to CourseKit. If Google could build any product for you, ideally for educational purposes, not like your own personal wish list for Google. And granted, I'm not the genie that can, you know, grant you this wish, but if you could have the Google for Education product team build you anything you wanted for higher ed or for K-12, what would it be?
And I've got 60 seconds to put my wish list out there. So I thought long and hard of this, you know, and while I've got the mic, you know, one of the things that I would love for Google to work with the higher ed community on is think about what would a Google Learning Record Store product look like that merges Google Analytics and all the analytics from CourseKit, and then ultimately all of our other analytics from all of our other third-party vendors. You know, because right now, even though it's getting better, I've got to look 4 or 5 different places and still like put all those learning analytics together to get a kind of a 360-degree view of all of my enterprise teaching and learning technology use. So big ask, but you know, Google's up to it.
I'm glad you have confidence in us, Paul.
Thank you. I think for IU, I guess I'd really like to see just some continued extensions in the machine learning and sort of the artificial intelligence pieces, and primarily on the sort of educational side around, you know, how can we actually go and get more people involved and really further sort of the depth at which people can engage and start to use those tools for creative and insightful findings. So as Paul was talking about using Caliper to gather the data from these tools, I think the thing that, the question that comes to my mind most frequently then is, well, what is the right information? What is the data that we actually need? And so clickstream data and just sort of the general information about what people are doing in a tool is not always going to actually affect learning. And so it's not going to really move us forward from an educational perspective. And so I think working with you and some of the fantastic tools that you have in that vein would be an absolutely awesome project.
For me, if it's my wish list, I think the thing that would address at least some of those things would be if Google were able to help us build a student information system where we housed all of our data and all the stuff, especially in higher ed, because there's so many different components to that, then allowing us to build modules or using something like AppMaker to plug into that for some of the different areas on our campus, because we house students, there's student housing, those types of things. So having our system of record be basically in Google Cloud would allow us to do a lot of other things that our current system of record is not so great at. And then also in CourseKit, rubrics would be fantastic, and being able to do group grading.
Definitely top request we got in our pilot.
Those are a lot of good requests. I like all of them. And I think I already sent Marta a list of items as well.
Yes, I got these all, they have me on the speed dial equivalent of email, so I've definitely gotten some of these lists before, yes.
But I've already mentioned the plagiarism tool. I think that would be a huge win. But I also would be excited to see a polling or response tool, be able to beef up forms and have more spontaneous exchanges in the classroom or online with students.